case CR 22-21-1623, State of Idaho versus Chad Guy Daybell. I'll note that the witness, Ms. Gibb, is still under oath. The state's continuing with direct examination. We just concluded our mid-morning recess. It went slightly longer than anticipated. I had a matter I took up with counsel on a sidebar that was reported in the case. I believe we're ready to commence then with further examination. And Ms. Blake, just for scheduling purposes, we do want to take a lunch break today, approximately noon, if that works out with your scheduling.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll watch the clock.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Ms. Gibb, before we took the break, we'd been talking about the killing of Charles and your observation shortly after that. Prior to Charles' death, did you and Lori have conversations about her relationship with Chad?
Yes. Yes.
Do you recall if she shared with you the nature of their relationship?
Yes.
And what did she share with you, if you recall?
That they really loved each other. They had been in multiple lives. They had missions together. That there was some physical affection, contact.
And this was when Charles was still living as well?
Yes.
And we talked about when Chad came back down, or when Chad came down to Arizona after Charles had been killed, Lori and Chad talking about plans for a future together.
Right.
Did that include talk of the missions that you just referenced?
Yes.
Your Honor, I believe we already went over that before the break. If you'd like me to go over it again.
If that's a objection, then it's overruled.
And she shared with you that there was some kind of physicalness within their relationship.
Correct.
Did she tell you whether or not she thought that was okay because they were both married?
Yes. She said that every time she would get together with Chad, she would always ask Jesus if what was acceptable or appropriate that she could interact with Chad.
And if she felt she had the affirmation that it was okay, then she would do it?
I assume.
Did she tell you where they would meet up?
Hotels.
Did you ever talk to Chad or Lori about whether either of them were seeking a divorce?
Yes.
What did you learn in relation to that?
I asked why weren't they getting a divorce, and she told me that if Chad were to seek after a divorce, that he would be in trouble with Jesus, that he would lose his exaltations.
Did she tell you where she got that information?
She got it from Chad.
Do you know if Charles had started any divorce proceedings?
Oh, yes, I believe so.
But Lori didn't.
Correct.
Did you ever see Lori with more than one phone?
Yes.
Do you recall approximately how many phones you saw her with?
3.
Did she ever tell you anything about why she had 3 phones?
One was her own personal phone, and then one was she just had a connection with Chad through the other phone, and I'm not sure about the other one.
So one of the phones was to communicate with Chad.
Yes.
Did you ever learn if Chad had more than one phone?
I remember she saying he had a special phone just for her, but that's all I remember.
Did Lori ever share with you how often she and Chad were in contact?
It was mostly daily. I'm sure there was times where she said, she couldn't contact him for certain reasons, but mostly it was daily.
And would that have been approximately since they met that they stayed in that type of contact, if you know?
Yes, that I know of.
And we talked about Lori telling you Chad had shared with her that they'd been married in prior lives.
That's right.
Did she ever tell you specific names that they had in prior lives or who they were?
Yes.
What were some of those that she shared with you?
I'm trying to remember her names. I'm not remembering her names. I remember certain positions though.
And what were those positions?
She was married to Moroni, and she was married to James, and she was J- she was Chad's wife, but he was James, and she was, I think, Elena. And then Chad was considered to be Methuselah, and she was his daughter, I believe, but I don't remember a name. Seemed like there was another time she was a lady that was married to a relative of Joseph Smith, but I can't recall her name right now. I can't, and there could have been another one. I just not recalling it.
And when you say you remember positions, were those biblical or figures within some scriptures?
Yes,
When she was Elena, do you know who Chad was supposed to have been in that life?
James, one of the apostles of Jesus Christ.
And is that one of the times that they were married in a previous life?
Yes,
Did she tell you where she learned that information?
from Chad.
Did she ever tell you how Chad would get his information?
She said that he would sit in his portal and ask questions.
Did you ever see the portal that was referenced?
Yes. Oh, well, not his, but hers.
And what did you observe in relation to Lori's portal?
It was nothing but, just a spot in her closet. I mean, it didn't look like anything. She just considered it her portal, but it looked like just a regular space.
And who told her that was a portal?
Chad told her and taught her about it.
Had Lori ever talked to you about portals before meeting Chad?
I can't recall.
Do you recall when the last time you saw Tylee was?
In Arizona, July or August of 2019.
And after Charles' death, at some point, do you recall Lori leaving Arizona?
Yes,
Do you know where she relocated?
she relocated to Rexburg.
Did she ever talk to you about why she left to Arizona to go to Rexburg?
Yes, she wanted to be with Chad and start their missions together.
Do you know whose idea it was for her to go to Idaho? Did she share that with you?
I can't remember if it was hers or both of theirs.
But she wanted to go to be with Chad.
Correct.
And when she left to go to Idaho, to the best of your knowledge, was Tammy still alive?
She was.
We had talked about people being light and dark. Do you recall if Lori ever said anything to you in relation to Tylee and whether or not what her level was or her rating?
She did say she was dark at some point. I don't remember the rating.
Do you know who gave her that information?
I'm guessing it was Chad. I don't remember.
Generally speaking, would she tell you she turned to Chad for these answers?
Yeah.
Did you know of anything else Chad used to get answers?
Yes, one time I saw him with a pendulum.
And do you recall what the pendulum looked like?
It was gold, I think, or brass, and it had like a pointiness to the bottom of it and like a string.
Do you recall when you saw that?
That was in February of 2019.
Do you recall where you were?
Yeah, I was here in Boise, Idaho.
And do you recall why you were in Boise?
Yeah, there was a conference that weekend that I came to.
Do you recall who was present with you that you associated with at that conference?
Yes, Chad was there, and Sulema, Serena, and Audrey. And there were a lot of other people, but that was in the little small circle of friends.
Were those the individuals around when you saw the pendulum?
Right, correct.
I didn't hear you mention Lori. Was she there?
No,
Do you know where she was?
she was in Hawaii, I believe.
When Lori moved to Idaho, do you recall who went with her?
JJ and Tylee and Alex. He was either there before or after. I don't know. I know at some point he was up there.
So Alex, her brother, moved around the same time she did.
Yes,
And this is after Charles has been killed, correct?
correct.
And it's after Chad has told Alex that he's Lori's protector. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Do you recall if you ever spoke to Lori after she'd moved to Idaho?
Yes,
Do you recall if you heard anyone in the background when you talked to her?
yes, she was in her apartment playing games with Alex and Tylee.
So you heard Tylee in the background
did.
when you talked to her?
Yes,
Do you recall approximately when that would have been?
um, August or September, not sure.
Would it have been shortly after they'd moved to Rexburg?
Yes, they just moved in.
At some point after Lori and Alex and the children moved to Idaho, did you end up visiting Lori?
I did.
Do you recall approximately when that was?
Um, the weekend of September 22nd,
And was that of 2019?
correct.
Do you recall why you ended up coming to Idaho during that weekend?
Yes, there was a conference in town, and then I was going to record a podcast with her.
Had you and Lori recorded podcasts before?
Yes,
When you came to Idaho, where did you end up staying?
at Lori's house.
And did you drive or fly? Do you recall?
I flew.
Who picked you up at the airport?
Lori.
When you got to Lori's house during that weekend, who was present?
Um, Alex was there and JJ was there. And then occasionally Chad would come over.
And then was there an individual named David Warwick that also ended up there?
Oh, yes.
And who was David Warwick?
He's my husband now.
And at the time,
He was my boyfriend.
do you know if Alex had his own apartment as well?
Yes,
And he did,
he did.
but he would be at Lori's at times.
Yes.
I didn't hear you say anything about Tylee. Did you ever see Tylee when you arrived in Idaho?
No,
Did you ask Lori at any point where Tylee was?
yes.
What were you told?
I was told that she was at the BYU Idaho campus at school, and she got roommates with some girls that she was able to get her in.
Did Lori talk any more about Tylee while you were there?
No,
Did you ever see Tylee come visit?
no,
Ever hear Lori on the phone with her?
no.
Do you know whose room you stayed in while you were there?
Tylee's.
Were a lot of Tylee's items in the room?
Nothing was in there. That was clothing or anything, just furniture.
Did Lori talk to you about JJ while you were there?
Yes.
What did she tell you?
She told me that the day before I arrived that he became dark.
So previously she'd told you Tylee was dark,
Correct.
correct?
Yeah.
And now JJ was dark.
Correct.
Did you observe JJ that weekend?
Yes.
Did you observe any behaviors that caused you concern?
No.
Do you recall her telling you why she believed he was dark?
Either Chad told her or she figured it out herself. I'm thinking it was Chad, but I'm not remembering.
And Chad was present at times that weekend,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Was he present when there was talk of JJ being dark?
It's possible.
Did you ever observe any interactions between JJ and Chad while you were there?
Yes.
And what were those?
Um, JJ seemed to be upset, and so Chad uh, took him upstairs with him, and they went into
All right, I'll construe that as an objection based on foundation. Ms. Blake,
Miss Gibb, do you recall approximately when in your visit the interaction occurred?
I feel like it was Thursday, like I got there on a Wednesday, I believe. I feel like it was the next day.
And I guess for reference, how long were you there at Lori's?
From Wednesday to Monday morning.
So best of your recollection, this is around your second or your first full day there.
I think so.
And if you could go ahead and tell us again what you observed.
Okay. He took him upstairs, and then after a period of time, he came back downstairs. I believe he was holding his hand, and that's what I observed with them.
Did you observe any injuries to Chad?
He had a red scratch on his neck.
Did he tell you how he got that?
I asked him, and he said that JJ had scratched him.
Had you seen many interactions between Chad and JJ before that?
No.
When you were there, you talked about Chad coming and going. Did he stay the night to the best of your knowledge?
No, I never noticed that.
And this weekend that you're there, Tammy was still alive, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you ever hear Chad talk about Tammy?
A little bit.
Do you recall what you heard?
Um, Chad and David Warwick were speaking at the island, and David was asking him questions about Tammy, and Chad said, please don't share this with anybody, my relationship with Lori. And so David asked questions about the relationship he had with Tammy.
Ms. Blake, objection based on foundation.
Your Honor, I think she's recalling events from that weekend. So we do have a narrowed time frame. I can ask a follow-up question, but it's based on her personal knowledge.
I'll sustain the objection if you want to ask additional foundational questions, Ms. Blake.
Do you recall approximately when you heard this conversation between David and Chad during your stay?
It would have been on the weekend because David was there already. He didn't come until Friday, so could have been like on a Saturday or Sunday.
So sometime around Saturday or Sunday?
Yes.
And what did you hear Chad say about Tammy?
That she was a good wife, I believe. I'm not recalling right now what he said.
Do you recall him ever mentioning that he was going to divorce her?
Never heard that.
Ever hear him talk about getting separated?
No.
Did you observe Chad and Lori interact while you were there?
Yes.
Did you observe them interact several times through your stay?
Yes.
What were your observations of their interactions?
They seemed to be a couple that was close and loved each other. There was affection, hugging. I saw her kiss him on the cheek. They were singing together, maybe a little dancing.
So affectionate with each other.
Yes.
Do you recall ever seeing them act affectionate outside of the apartment?
Yes.
What do you recall about that?
We were walking around the campus and they were holding hands.
Campus is pretty broad, Ms. Blake.
When you refer to campus, do you know which campus that was?
The BYU, Idaho.
All right.
The BYU Idaho campus is what you said?
Yes.
I'm going to pause so you can take a drink.
Thank you.
And do you recall approximately when you went and walked the track during your time in Idaho?
It was really in the beginning, so it was either Wednesday night or Thursday night.
And what did you observe between them at the BYU Idaho track?
Very affectionate and loving towards each other.
Did you ever ask them or did they ever say anything to you about that?
I asked them if they were concerned, if they were worried if Tammy might see them together, and she let me know that Tammy, wasn't aware of his personal life like that, where he went.
But again, no indication of divorce or separation.
Correct.
Did Lori ever talk to you about September 22nd having any kind of special meaning to her?
Yes.
What did she tell you about that?
She told me that it was an anniversary for her of when she saw Moroni in the temple.
And do you recall the last time you saw JJ?
It was the Sunday night, the 22nd.
What was happening the last time you saw him, if you remember?
I was in the house, Lori's house, and I was doing a recording with Lori and David, and Alex walked in the door holding JJ on his shoulder and was taking him to bed. He had fallen asleep.
And did you see where Alex put JJ to bed?
No,
Do you know which room JJ normally slept in?
he often slept with his mom in the corner of her room. There was a little spot that she would put a bed in there for him, but he also had his own bedroom too.
Did he sleep in his bedroom that night?
No,
And how do you know that?
because I was in that bedroom, then JJ's bedroom, so he wasn't in there.
And you talked earlier, you were going to stay in Tylee's room.
Right.
Can you tell us why you ended up in JJ's room?
So I was, slept often in Tylee's room. And then when David got there, him and we were in the same room that night together talking and reading scriptures and going to bed.
So did David have his things in JJ's room?
Yeah.
So was it your understanding JJ was put to bed in Lori's room that night?
Yes.
What, if anything, happened that night out of the ordinary?
David woke up with just a panic. He had a really bad dream, like a nightmare, and he was very disturbed by it. And I asked him, what was going on, what he experienced. And so I was concerned, and I thought I could call out and see if I can get some help from Lori and Chad to see if they could give him a priesthood blessing of comfort.
Did
Judge,
you?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first word. Should give him a what blessing?
Priesthood blessing.
Did you in fact try to contact Chad?
Yes.
How did you try to contact him?
Text or phone call.
Did he respond?
No.
And would this have been in the early morning hours?
sometime in the early morning.
Did you attempt to make contact with Lori?
Yes,
And how did you try to do that?
the same text and phone call. And then I went to her room to see if she was there and it was locked.
Did she respond to the text or phone call?
No,
And then her bedroom door was locked.
correct.
You have no way to know who was on the other side?
No,
Did anyone ever open the door for you?
no,
And you said that was on the 22nd.
correct.
Did you see JJ the next day?
No,
Did you ever see JJ again?
no.
After Charles was killed, did Lori ever share with you how she was going to survive financially?
She talked about money she received from JJ from his Social Security. She talked about, and let's see, she talked about, I think, like, was it Social Security for Charles, and then we talked about insurance a little bit, but I'm not sure if that's what you're thinking of.
So, do you know if she ever received any life insurance for Charles?
I don't think so.
So, to the best of your knowledge, she was living off the Social Security money.
Yeah, to my knowledge.
Do you know if Lori ever got a job when she came to Idaho?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Did she ever tell you that she had a job lined up and that's why she was moving to Idaho?
No,
At some point, did Lori talk to you about some struggles with JJ?
yes.
What did she share with you about that?
She said that he was acting out more as far as the weekend that I was there in September, that he was acting like he was possessed. He was, 1 minute he would be upset, 1 minute she would say he was talking very intelligent, just a variety of different behaviors. She seemed troubled by it, that he had been taken over by evil spirit, that he was upsetting. I don't know. She just seemed kind of upset by it.
Did she ever indicate any kind of a plan of how she was going to handle that?
Yes.
What did she tell you?
She said that she wanted Kay to have JJ.
Did she ever talk to you about a plan to get JJ to Kay?
Yes.
What did she tell you?
She said that she wanted to meet together with her in the airport and talk to her about her, like she had cancer or something like that. And that if she would take him or a relative that was close by to Kay's family, that would take him.
And did Lori talk to you about coming up with what to tell Kay to get her to take JJ?
Yeah, we talked about that.
And did you help her come up with an idea to tell Kay that Lori was sick and so she needed Kay to take JJ?
She was throwing different ideas out with me. And so we talked about that kind of scenario. Yeah.
Was it your understanding that Lori actually did in fact contact Kay? Is that what she told you?
Yeah, she did.
Did she tell you that in fact she had given JJ to Kay?
She did.
And we go back to the last time you saw JJ is the night of September 22nd.
Yes.
That next morning, did Lori say anything in relation to where JJ was that day?
I believe she said that David remembers this more than I do, but that he was with Alex that morning.
And is it sometime after that that Lori leads you to believe that she sent JJ to be with Kay?
Yes.
Did Lori talk to you about how she transferred JJ to Kay, the custody?
Yes.
And how was that?
She said they met up in the Salt Lake City airport and she took JJ.
And we'd talked, actually, let me back up. Sometime later so you're there in September.
Mhm.
Did you continue to be in contact with Lori after that trip?
Yes,
Did you ever hear JJ in the background on any phone calls?
no,
Do you recall getting a call from Chad sometime in November of
yes,
2019?
yes.
Do you recall where you were when you got that call?
Yes, I was in Utah.
Do you recall approximately when it was?
I felt like it was like 2 or 3 days before Thanksgiving.
Do you recall what Chad told you or why he was calling?
Yes.
And why was that?
He told me that the Rexburg police were going to call me and ask about JJ.
What, if anything, did he tell you to do in regards to that?
He asked me not to pick up the phone and talk to them.
Did he tell you why he thought the police were going to call you?
Because he said that Lori had told the police that I had JJ.
How did Chad sound in that phone call?
Nervous.
Did you have JJ?
No,
Did you ask Chad where JJ was at that time?
I said he's not with Kay, and he's no.
And prior to that, where had Lori told you JJ was?
He was with Kay.
Did Chad tell you anything else that you recall?
He said that Lori would shortly be calling me after that, but she was talking to the police. I can't remember right now everything else. It was very brief.
Do you recall if Chad indicated where he was when he placed that phone call?
I don't recall.
Did you learn at some point where Chad and Lori were? What state?
Oh, Idaho.
Did Lori in fact end up reaching out to you?
She did.
Do you recall what she told you?
When she answered the phone, or when I answered the phone, she was very positive and upbeat as if everything was okay. And she said that she was protecting Tylee and JJ because Kay was and others were trying to kidnap him. So that's why. And she told me to go to a Frozen movie and take a picture to act like there's other kids like I had him.
And did law enforcement in fact try to reach out to you?
They did.
Did you answer initially?
Initially, no.
Do you recall at any point if Lori, Alex, or Chad had told you anything regarding law enforcement?
At some point, yes. I can't remember the beginning, but I remember having a phone conversation with Alex, or maybe it was in person. That the police had come to his house and Melanie's house to ransack his house. And they came questioning, asking about where JJ was.
At any point were you told whether or not law enforcement were dark?
Yes.
And what were you told in regards to that?
I remember Alex saying they were considered dark translated beings.
And again, who was it that was able to determine if someone was dark from your understanding?
From my understanding, it was Chad.
So initially you don't answer the call from law enforcement. Why was that?
Because I was absolutely did not know and understand what to do about it.
At some point, did you end up talking to law enforcement?
I did.
What did you initially tell them in relation to JJ?
So when I called Gilbert Police, I initially told them I had JJ, but then I didn't have him. He was back with Lori.
So initially you complied a little bit with what Lori had asked. Is that
Correct.
fair?
Yes.
At some point, Did you make contact with law enforcement again?
Yes,
And did you end up making contact with them through an attorney?
initially.
Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
So right after I discovered that I needed to go talk to the police, the day I was going to go, I had a phone call from a friend who I hadn't talked to in about a year or two. He was an attorney, happened to be an attorney, and he felt impressed. He told me to call me out of the blue. I mean, no knowledge of this case had been revealed to the public, so he wouldn't have known to call me. And then I felt to share a little bit about what was going on. And so he said, I should probably do a child, what do they call that? I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name.
Are you thinking welfare check?
Welfare check. And I really wasn't sure what that meant because I've never been involved in that kind of dynamic before. So, yeah,
And did that friend of yours, the attorney, reach out to law enforcement and request a welfare check?
yes,
At this point in time, did you have concerns about JJ's well-being?
yes,
Did you have concerns about Tylee's well-being?
yes.
Did you end up sitting down with law enforcement later and telling them more about in regards to whether or not JJ was ever with you?
Yes, I told him everything.
And did you do that without an attorney?
Yes,
And did you in fact tell them JJ had never been with you?
correct.
Did you learn who had made or who had initially reported the children missing?
I'm sorry, can you?
Did you ever learn who had reported the children or JJ missing?
Are you referring to like maybe Kay contacting the police? Is that what
Yes.
you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you learn that?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
So originally Lori told you she'd given JJ to Kay. Is that
That's
correct?
correct.
And then later she told you Kay was going to try to kidnap JJ.
Right.
Did Lori disclose the location of JJ to you at that time?
No,
At some point, did you end up, or let me back up. After those calls from Chad and Lori around Thanksgiving, did you have further contact with Chad and or Lori?
so after, yes, after I went to Arizona for Thanksgiving, and Dave and I pulled over and called them because we were really concerned and wanted to have a prayer. We were worried about everybody. So that was a few days later.
And did Chad or Lori answer?
We called both of them. So
And they were together?
yes,
In that conversation, did Chad or Lori tell you where JJ was?
they didn't tell me where he was.
At some point, did you end up talking to Alex?
Yes,
And did you talk to Alex about your concerns with JJ?
I did.
Do you recall what Alex told you?
Yes, I asked him.
Judge, could I have some foundation as to when this conversation supposedly took place?
Objection based on foundation, Ms. Blake.
I'll ask some additional questions.
Thank you.
Do you recall approximately when you spoke with Alex about your concerns?
I think it was the day or two after Thanksgiving.
Do you recall where you spoke to him?
Yes, it was in Arizona, and we were behind the house that he just moved into, which was Sulema's house. There's a field there. We were walking and talking, and that's where I asked him.
Do you recall if anyone else was present for that conversation?
Melanie was there, and then shortly after that, Sulema showed up.
So, and when you say Melanie, was that Lori's niece?
Yes.
And what did Alex tell you in relation to where JJ was or to your concerns for JJ?
I just said, do I want to know where JJ was? And he said no. And then he proceeded to tell me about the police coming to their apartment and I didn't understand why they would do that, so we talked a little bit about that.
But when you ask if you wanted to know where JJ was, his response was you didn't want to know.
That's right.
At some point, did you end up making a phone call to Chad and Lori on December 8th of 2019?
Yes.
Who was present when you made that phone call?
No one.
Did you record the phone call?
Yes.
Was someone there recording it for you?
No.
What device did you use to record it?
Cell phone.
Had law enforcement ask you to make this phone call?
No.
And you did in fact record it?
Correct.
Judge, I have what's been marked as State's Exhibit 42. It's a jump drive. I have a copy for counsel. And I would request to publish the first portion for identification purposes only.
All right. Before it's
I have one.
published, of course, we'll go through the question of admissibility. Mr. Pryor, is there any objection to Exhibit 42 being admitted?
I would have preferred a little more foundation, Judge, but at this point, I'm gonna stipulate to the admission of the exhibit and allow her to move forward.
Okay, Exhibit 42 is admitted, but pending an additional or a first proffer that it is actually the exhibit Mr. Pryor believes it in the court and properly marked. In other words, Ms. Blake, if you just start a portion of it and let everyone confirm it's the call you're referring to.
Thank you, Your Honor. And that was actually my intention in order to lay more foundation. And it wants to give me difficulties. Let me try one of the other discs. Your Honor, if I may have just a moment.
You may.
Sorry about that technical problem. I think I have it figured out. Not just. Okay, hopefully third time's a charm.
No.
I'm going to pause there briefly. Were you able to hear that?
Mhm.
Do you recognize the voice on there? And whose voice is that?
Fine.
And do you recognize this as the recording that you made on December 8th of 2019? Your Honor, I believe with the additional foundation, this may be, or I'd move for the admission of this exhibit.
All right, I've previously admitted it. May it be published, Mr. Pryor?
Yeah, there's no, Judge, you're right. You've already admitted it, so it can be published at this point.
Okay, before we do that, I am gonna maybe suggest we get a handheld microphone if one's readily available. We weren't getting great audio off of the mic on the stand there, Ms. Blake.
You have an extra desk or something? One that's not being used with anything else on it. Just put it on that and see. It'll take me a minute. Yeah, me too. I'm a lot slower.
And Your Honor, I think I had forgotten to turn the mic on again, so we'll see if it plays through and if it picks up better.
Okay.
And I am calling Chad Daybell's phone number. And hopefully I will be talking to both of them, Chad and Lori. So here goes the phone call.
Sweet Melanie.
Hi, Chad. Hey, Lori.
Hey, let me put on speaker.
Oh, okay.
All right.
We're enough with the phone. How are you guys?
Okay, how are you doing, babe?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks. I was wondering, where are you guys?
We're just hanging out.
Hanging out? Are you in Idaho?
We're in Idaho.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to ask you a question, if you don't mind, Lori.
Yeah,
Um, I want to know, you remember we talked about JJ going to Kay's house and you told me they went there and now he's not there? I was wondering what happened.
well, I had to move him somewhere else because of her actions. So,
Was she doing something? Like, was she trying to come get him or something, or like trying to kidnap him?
well, she said that lots of times before, but,
Okay, when I asked Chad the other day, I was like, hey, where is JJ? And he said, for my security, he didn't want me to know. So is there a reason I should be in danger to know where he is?
no, it's nobody. It's his danger. It's the danger that there's people after me.
Okay,
So,
If you knew, that puts you in a danger.
well, just in a bad position.
Yeah, bad position.
Everybody, if they don't know anything, then they don't have to say they know.
right, so you're just worried, okay.
I'm just to keep him protected and
We'll keep you protected.
keep everybody else.
I appreciate that. Well, I was wondering why you told the police why he was with me.
I just needed to have somebody that so I wouldn't have to tell them where he really was because they were going to tell Kay where he is.
Oh, yeah. So do you think it's like your family, or like your family, your dad, or those
Well, my
people?
family, well, not my whole family, but as you know, most of my family is working against me and
Yeah,
with her, basically.
yeah. Is JJ safe?
He is safe and happy.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. Are you afraid of anything? Like, are you afraid to tell me that you're just afraid that that I could be in danger? Like like I don't, like if I knew, like how could that hurt me? I don't understand how that could hurt me if I knew where he was.
Well, I'm just not telling anybody so that nobody has to say where he is or get questioned to where he is, so I can keep him as safe as possible.
Yeah. Okay, I hope that he's okay. I hope you guys are okay. But I did have a question that I asked Al at one point, your brother, if I wanted to know, like where he was, and he said I did not want to know, and that he could not be found. So what does that mean?
I don't know if he would say that, but it's the same story. Like
Yeah.
I don't even want Al to know. I don't want anybody to know, so that nobody has to be worried about it. I mean, nobody has to be
Yeah.
questioned about it, so he can be safe.
Yeah. So are you, how long are you gonna be away for? Like are you ever gonna be able to come out and come back to society again? Or are you gonna keep, come back? What does that look like?
I will do whatever the Lord needs me to do every day. So
Okay. I just wondered if I was ever gonna see you again.
absolutely, you will.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so maybe when they're done chasing you, you'll be able to come out of. You think they will come out again, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's a ridiculous thing for them to be working with Kay to find me. There's nothing that's gone on that's, you know what I'm saying? Like they're working with her in some dark capacity. The police are working with her in some dark capacity. There's no reason for them to be after me in the first place.
Yeah, has she threatened you at all?
Yes, lots of times.
Oh boy, what did she say?
Well, it's in emails and everything. So.
So like she said she was going to come take them, or she was.
There's a lot of things.
Yeah.
Nellie.
I know it sounds like it. I'm just worried for you guys because, he's missing, and
I know exactly where he is. He's perfectly fine.
Okay, well, I hope so. I had a scripture I wanted to share with you, if you don't mind.
I'd love it.
I was thinking about some of the things you guys have gone through, and I saw this scripture today, and I want you to
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
About scripture. Okay. So, did Alma turn himself into King Noah, or what was he required to do?
Well, King Noah was incredibly wicked.
Yeah.
So he fled his evil ways, which is adultery and living riotously and breaking all the commandments.
Right. So what was he required to do, Alma?
He had to go and flee so that he would be safe, and then help other people realize how jacked up the system was and the government was.
What about Moroni? What was he required to do at the end?
To carry on those plates and bury them. That was his responsibility.
What did he have to do to do that? Did he hide?
He had to hide. He had to hide because they were so. Everybody was killing everybody in the society. Everybody was dying. They were killing all the Nephites.
And the scriptures had to hide in the cavity of a rock by day and go out by night.
The prophets did.
They did.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you for sharing that with me. Okay, this scripture is just something that may be thoughtful for you. For behold, this is Doctrine and Covenants, section 3, verse 7 and 8, says, for behold, you should not have feared man more than God. Although men set not the counsels of God and despise his words, yet you should have been faithful, and he would have extended his arm and supported you against all the fiery darts of the adversary. He would have been with you in every trouble. So when we work with the Lord and are obedient, He's going to protect us from adversarial darts and all kinds of negativity. But when we open the door to Satan, he comes in and then he attacks. And then he takes away to make it look like somebody else took it away. But that's not how God works. He doesn't work in darkness.
I agree with you 100%. And that's what the Lord is doing for me. Exactly what he's doing for me.
Oh, it just sounds weird.
For darkness, no. Darkness is knocking on the door all the time because that's the way dark works with the light. And I promise you, that I have done nothing wrong in this case, but sometimes you have to hide in a cavity of a rock for your own life safety. And that's what the Lord requires of you sometimes. And that's how it is. And I'm sorry that's how it is, because there is a lot of darkness on the earth.
I know.
This spring after me for zero reason, besides the darkness of Kay, which you already know she's dark.
I haven't met her enough to know if she is dark or not. I've just met her slightly and she seemed like a normal kind of person, but then I haven't engaged with her that much. So I don't know that personally.
So you don't know about her changing the thing for herself to be the beneficiary of the policy and all that stuff. None of that's dark, right?
Well, I haven't seen those documents, so I have no way of knowing.
I've seen them on my computer.
No, I have not. I haven't even looked in on your computer before. You haven't showed me anything.
Being controversial to me, or if you're recording this conversation for the police or whatever, I don't know what your intention is on this phone call.
Well,
but I love you with all my heart, and I have forever, and I will always love you.
I appreciate those words, but if you really loved me, you wouldn't have told the police that I had Jeju with me. That's not what a friend does. I mean, that just makes me look weird, and it's not safe for me. That doesn't look good. I mean, you had to think of my welfare if you love me.
I do, and I did exactly what I felt the Lord was instructing me to do. And I appreciate you, and I love you.
I'm just.
And I will never do anything to harm you. And you can have all of this confirmed to you by the Lord.
I have. And my conscience is clear. I feel very understanding what's really going on, Lori. And I believe that you have been very deceived by Satan. I believe that he has tricked you. And I don't believe that what you're doing is correct. I just don't. I mean, Tammy dies, and then your husband died, and then he's missing. It just doesn't sound like God's plan to me. It gives me a gut feeling, like in my gut, it feels weird. It doesn't feel right. I don't have peace about it. I never have felt 100% peace about it. I always felt like a little weird in my stomach about all these things.
You know me, Mel. You know me. This does not sound like you. This sounds like you've been influenced by somebody dark who wants you to believe dark things and have fear of the celestial world.
I don't have fear.
You obviously do.
No, I have a peace of conscience and I can see clearly.
Well, I'm sorry that you feel that way. I love you so much.
I know you do. I don't know what else to say.
Stand Christ when he comes again, and he's coming soon, and we will all stand there, and you will know at that point that he has supported me and has supported me the whole time, and I have not been deceived.
I just want to testify that I know Tammy does have the conspiracy theories. My sister-in-law's right behind it all, and I hope that you're not being influenced by that dark team.
I don't know who she is. I'm sorry, you said your sister-in-law? I don't even know her.
I know, but she's coming up with the same type of theories. Mm-hmm. And it's just not true. My own children were there. They testified that Tammy had been getting weaker and sick, and I begged her to go to the doctor. Her heart was failing her. She was physically falling apart, but she hates doctors, and she just passed away. That's how it happened. My son Garth was right there with me the whole time. My kids were at the house within 20 minutes of her passing. There were 2 coroners. They checked her out right there on the bed. All these conspiracy theories just make me sick to my stomach. Just absolutely sick. I know I've been told for years that Tammy would pass away at a young age. And I had no idea that Lori would even be a part of my life. I just knew that my life had 2 segments. And that I know Tammy's on a special mission and she's with my kids. She's visited them. There's so much, Melanie, that you just have to have faith. And this is not some sort of master plan. There's no way Lori and I should ever come up with this. It's just,
You can understand my concern, correct?
I can from an outside perspective, but from
someone who knows as much as you know, no, not really. But we can feel Dave's influence on you. I can feel that for sure.
He's a very good man and he has a very strong foundation, that I know.
I know, but he seems to be the one that's putting the doubts in your mind.
No, you know what? I have come to understand that my gut feeling, I was not listening to it. And I always felt uncomfortable with many things.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry that I included you in those teachings then for your own sake, because I wish that you didn't have as much knowledge as you have, because you will be accountable for the knowledge that you do have, Mom.
So are you.
I
So
agree
are
100%.
you. Yeah. So are you.
100%. I have no fear.
Yeah.
I have no fear of that.
But I really, as I was reading the story of Korihor, and it is so very similar to this. You just can't see it, but he did it because he was trying to reclaim a people, and he thought at the very end, because of his carnal and natural desires, that's what influenced him. And he was very, very deceiving.
Natural desires.
Well, honey, you got a lot of natural desires. We all know that.
That's what you think is me, Korihor? Are you kidding me right now?
I think both of you have similarities. It's in the scriptures. It's in the scriptures. And the scriptures are very powerful.
Yes, they are. I live by the scriptures, as you know.
I know, but we can rest the scriptures for our own vain glory.
I rested the scriptures?
We can do that. And I feel that you have to suit our belief systems.
Do I rest the scriptures? Is that what you're accusing me of at this point?
I feel that you have.
Why do you feel that way? I need an explanation on this.
Because if you look, like the scripture just shared, okay, the
scriptures every single day, you know?
I know you read them. I don't doubt that. But this scripture right here says that you will be supported by all against the fiery darts of the adversary. You would have been supported if you had not opened dark portals and dark junk. You would have been safe if you would have obeyed God. He would have had your back. But you have been chased and tortured and
this or not.
I'm sorry.
He had back. So
well, if he has your back, you would not be able to tell me where you are, and we couldn't find JJ. Like, where is he? I've been asking, where is he? And you know what I mean? Like, that's
I could tell everything where JJ is right now, and that would not be good for JJ. So I'm sorry that you don't want me to protect my children, but I would never ask you to not protect your children.
Of course you wouldn't.
So I can tell that you're just adversarial, Mel. I love you. I'm sorry that you feel this way.
Because I actually do care. I'm sharing what I feel for you because I know your salvation's in trouble for what you've done.
Okay, my salvation is not in trouble at all. And I think you should check that with the Lord again.
Oh, I've felt a lot of things from the Lord. And this doesn't feel right.
Well, I'm sorry that you feel that way, sweetheart. I'm sorry that you're friends with all those who are against me. Joseph Smith's friends turned against me.
I'm not a friend. I'm not friends with people that are against you.
Apparently you are.
I am not. I don't know Kay. I don't know who you're talking about. Your sister. I don't even know what her name or who she is. I don't know any of those people. Why would they contact me anyway? How would I even know about that?
Well, you're friends with Dave, and he's apparently, you know.
Well, David is a very righteous man, and I've always known that grounding about him. And he has a lot of beautiful experiences with the Lord, and these are not the same. You know, when you get the priesthood, that's Peter, James, and John shows up, and then he confirms all of those in the circle that are to get it, and everybody's a witness of that. Everybody's a witness that the pattern is in the scriptures. There's no witness that you ever receive what you think you received. Nobody has seen that but you. There's no witness. The witness, Joseph Smith, Oliver Cowdery, Martin Harris, the 8 witnesses, they all showed up.
Is there a witness when Jesus, Heavenly Father, gave that to Joseph Smith by himself in the grove? Was there a witness?
No, but they had
No.
it later with other people. That was one experience, but others joined in later. When he brought other people into it, they had experiences.
Scriptures, yes or no?
I'm sorry?
Is that in the scriptures, yes or no?
That Joseph was alone when he saw God the Father and Jesus Christ? Yes, he was alone,
He was alone.
but he had to open it up first.
That's not a pattern at all.
Honey, what I'm saying is that after he saw that and other people joined in, they saw the things with him. He wasn't alone. There was a witness for them. There was no witness. Anybody's never seen what you've seen or experienced what you've seen. That's your own witness, but nobody
I know.
said that.
No, God knows it, and I will never deny it. For my soul would be at stake if I did. So you can say it didn't happen to me, Mel, but if I say it, then I am accountable. You didn't witness it,
Okay,
but I did.
but your behaviors is not, okay, I understand that's what you believe you saw, but this is the thing, as I see, is that your behavior is not one of somebody
Never
that's in
had
Christ.
any
Your
idea that you
behavior,
would be
your
the person to
behavior.
do that.
What?
Never had any idea that you would be the person of all people to turn me. I cannot
I
believe
am
it.
asking questions and I am concerned for you. That is what somebody does when they care.
You don't sound like you're concerned. You sound like you're accusatory. You do not sound concerned. You sound pissed off.
I'm not. I am troubled. Maybe that's the better word. Troubled. Because these things, like you being with Chad before he's even divorced, is unusual behavior for a person that's seen
It's
Jesus
not.
Christ.
I was never with him and he was never divorced.
Honey, I've seen you
That's
guys
a
together.
story. That's a big
Oh, so I haven't ever seen you with, I've never seen you with Chad kiss him and walk around the track at BYU with him. I never saw that. You see
Say
him?
you were the one just feeling guilty about being with someone before they were divorced.
Oh, honey. I think that's not what we're talking about here.
Well, it's not what we're talking about here. That's what I'm saying. You are going off the deep end. But
Well, I'm just saying, this is not a behavior of someone that sees Jesus Christ. It's not the behavior.
really? Have you
Really.
ever seen Jesus Christ? So do you know what the future behavior would be if you had seen Jesus Christ?
I know that when I prayed,
He to do every day, and he does protect me, and he is protecting me, and he will protect me against this accusation as well. And we will both stand there with him, and you tell me if I was lying or not. But we're both standing there with Jesus Christ.
okay.
And Miss Gibb, it sounded like that call abruptly ended. What happened?
Just disconnected. Sometimes it disconnects in that particular area that we're in.
When this phone call takes place, did you know the location of Chad and Lori?
No,
They hadn't shared that with you?
no.
At the beginning of the call, we hear some laughter. Do you know who was laughing? Do you remember? Maybe I'll ask it this way. Did Chad and Lori seem upset when you called them initially?
Oh, no.
Did they seem to be in pretty good moods?
Yes,
And this is December 8th of 2019.
correct.
JJ is still missing at this point. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Lori talks to you about there being a danger that there's people after me. Do you know what she was referencing? Had she ever talked to you about that?
She just said that she felt Kay and her father and her other brother, not Alex, seemed like there might have been another, like a cousin or something. And possibly she put in there the police. It's kind of, lots of conversations together. But anyway, that they were all after her.
Did she ever express why these people were after her, why she thought they were?
Because she considered them dark. They knew who she was spiritually, and so their goal was to take JJ, and possibly her life might have been in danger.
And again, to the best of your knowledge, who was it that would determine if someone was light or dark?
And that was Chad.
And you talk in there to her about why she would say JJ was with you, correct?
Right.
And she ends up, Lori makes a comment along the lines of she just needed someone so she didn't have to say where he really was. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Did she ever tell you where JJ was?
No.
We also hear Lori on there make a comment that JJ is safe and happy. Do you recall that?
I do.
At any point, did you ever have any additional conversations with her where she explained what she meant by that?
I don't think so.
So she just says he's safe and happy.
Yes,
And this is on December 8th of 2019.
that's right.
Last time you saw JJ alive was September 22nd of 2019, correct?
Correct.
And in this recording, Lori mentions Kay as being dark, correct?
That's right.
You say you've never met Kay,
Briefly, I have.
just briefly?
Yeah.
At this point in time, did you really know Kay?
No,
Had you met her?
briefly.
Just briefly? What about the sister-in-law that Chad refers to? Do you know who that is?
He was referring, uh, was it Heather Daybell? I think her name was.
Had you ever met Heather Daybell?
I had not at that point. I had never met her.
And we hear Chad in there as well talk about that Tammy was physically falling apart and she just passed away. Do you recall that?
Yes,
But yeah, in there, we also hear Chad say that he knew Tammy was going to die.
right.
And we also hear Chad say he knew he was going to have basically a second life.
Right.
Do you recall that?
Yes.
Had you ever heard or talked to Chad before about him believing Tammy was going to die?
He was shared that information publicly at a few conferences that she was going to pass away at some point early.
And do you recall ever having conversations with Lori about the belief that Tammy was going to die?
Yes,
And did Lori believe that Tammy was going to pass away?
I believe she did,
Did she tell you where she got that information from?
from Chad.
There's a statement in there for someone who knows as much as you know from Lori to you. Do you know what she's referring to there?
Well, she referenced also the word teachings in there, the teachings that they had. They felt that their teachings of light and dark and multiple lives were a more of a higher, kind of more of a mystery learning. And so she felt that I would be in danger before God for knowing that and then turning on all that knowledge that she shared.
So talking about the knowledge you had from their teachings that you would have to account for that in the next life,
Correct.
or I guess after this life, whichever way
Correct.
they said it.
Yeah, right.
And you talked about that you weren't always comfortable with things.
Right.
Do you recall what some of the things were that you were referencing?
So the idea of they referred to dark people as zombies at some point, that was a little different. Them getting together and being, married multiple times, it was a little different. They're just all their teachings that are not standard teaching from our church. I never, 100% believed it. There was some uncertainty there. So just any of those new ideas that we've talked about today.
And I think we talked earlier, and you'd indicated you were open to some of the teachings or ideas, but
Yeah.
that you didn't fully believe them.
Correct.
Is that accurate?
Yeah.
And in that recording, Lori, again, she indicates that she knows where JJ is, correct?
That's correct.
And Chad's right there with her when you're talking to her.
That's right.
Ms. Blake, we're right about at the noon hour. Is there?
I was gonna say, I think this may be a good point to take it, the lunch hour.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and do that. We will recess for the noon hour for 1 hour. I will remind the jurors again over the lunch break. Please don't discuss the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Thank you for those in attendance for maintaining order pursuant to the court's conduct order, and we'll be back around 1 o'clock for continuing testimony.
All rise, please.
Okie dokie, we are now on a lunch break.